I clicked it. I always worry I'm not going to do it right, you know?
You did it. What do you do? You seem to be wandering about somewhere.
In my house.
Oh, lovely.
This is
It's
my
beautiful.
house. Very
It's
voyeuristic
beautiful.
of me. I like to give people tours of my house, basically.
Wow,
You like? Look, there's a hanging plant.
that's beautiful.
I'm glad
Where
it's
is
like a
this?
garden of Babylon. It's like
It really
it's my
is.
living room. I live in Bed-Stuy.
That's beautiful. I'm happy
Dude,
for you.
honestly, I had this kind of crazy thing where I had to move really quickly.
Mm.
And it was kind of intense. Like everybody thought I was having a complete like psychotic break. But I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, my life is psychotic right now.
Sure,
So
sure.
it would look like I'm insane because my life is driving me insane.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but one of the good fruits of it was this fucking apartment. I never would have been motivated to live alone.
Yeah, it seems nice. I haven't done it in a long time.
Yeah, have you ever?
I lived, yes. Well, I did. I lived in my car for a little while, so that's pretty long.
Whoa.
And I like that. People, people look down on living in your car, but it's pretty cool.
It's actually perhaps like one of the smarter things to do because you have like the ability to like change location
Well,
in
it was
it.
great. I was working at a campground, so I
Yeah.
would also just find a place to park, and then they had a shower house, so I can go there and use that in the morning. I see your kitty. My kitty's over here too. Hey,
Really?
buddy. Yeah, he was giving me kisses before.
Do you have a hard time clipping their nails?
Oh my god, I had to take him to the groomer because when
I
he was small I could do it, but he was fucking terrifying. He bit Courtney in the head. She's got like a scar. He's too
right?
big. He's big as fuck. Yeah, I
I've never
took
been able
him.
to successfully do it.
It's very, I could do it when he's little, but now I get too scared. I brought him in. This tiny woman did it in like 10 minutes. I'm like, I don't know what secret she had. I was wrestling with this guy for an hour.
I
And he
also
was in
think
and
it's
out.
like when they bond with you as like a parent, they like really resent you
Oh yeah.
for clipping their nails. I feel like when I've watched other people clip his nails, like he's not as upset by it.
Sure, sure. You're breaking his trust.
Right.
Hmm.
Exactly. I think it's a trust thing. It's like someone else actually should do that labor
I think so
because,
too.
right?
And it was only $15 and it's great. And
How
also
do
if you
you
go
do, who do you go to?
too deep, there's a place called Bushwick Bark. I'm sure there's a somewhere near you. It's $15. Also, there is a science to it. If you go too deep, I mean you can see
You
it, but there's
hurt
a vein
them.
in there.
Yeah.
No, you could like they could bleed.
Bleed.
It could kill them.
Aw.
So anyway, I lived in my car and I'd shower there. And then I worked there, so I would just drive to, it's
So
great.
what
You
did you do
wake
at the
up.
campground? Sorry.
I worked, there's a booth where you sell tickets. So like you just sell people passes to come in, and I just worked in there. So it was pretty fucking cool. And it was all my buddies worked there. All my
It's a
buddies were
good life.
on the maintenance, and they worked in the booth. So everyone was just like getting high all the time. It was like a summer camp, and we
How
just
old were
like
you?
fuck around. I worked there from like I want to say like 18 until like 21.
Wow.
And so that was pretty cool. And you wake up, yeah, I would wake up in my car and then you're like ready to go. So, and it was only one bad time. It's the only time I've ever driven drunk in my life, but it's because I was already in the campground. We went out drinking and they dropped me off, and my car was parked up front. And then I had no idea. Uh, I woke up and there were kids looking in my window, and I just parked in some family's fucking campsite, and I was like, oh shit, and it was just like got myself together and pulled out of there. I went to Stewart's. I went to get coffee. I looked and I see it. I'd thrown up down the window, which this is not, I like to drink, but this is very uncharacteristic. I usually have a very, I have it
Were
under
you going
control.
through something at the time?
No, it's just I was young and I was just having a hell of a time. I think it was when I first turned 21 and I was allowed to go to bars, so I was just wilding out.
That's
Uh,
really
so I was
cool.
having a hell of a time. And I got to Stewart's. I opened the door and I didn't realize my pants were undone, so my pants fell off, and so that was the only traumatic experience. But
Yeah.
then, since I was homeless in the car, they had an extra cabin that they used to use for activities,
Mhm.
and they just gave it to me. So I had this cabin, and
Yeah.
it was 20 feet from my job, and I worked from 8 p.m. until 4 a.m. So nothing happened. It was the fucking coolest. I was eight.
Honestly, it sounds like perfect for a sitcom. Like you should
Oh my
make like
god.
a script about those characters.
It was so fun. So
It
yeah,
sounds great.
I would just walk over. I'd still be like 5 minutes late, even though they can see me in my window.
You like live there.
Yeah, I lived there, but I would just stay up and fucking. I'd get high and watch movies, and it was rad.
Was this in Vermont?
No, this is upstate New York in the Adirondacks.
Oh yeah.
Yes, yes. So it was lovely. It was a lovely
Was
time.
that you? And you're from upstate New York, or are you from Vermont?
I was born in Vermont, and my parents got divorced when she was pregnant with me. My father went
That's
to
a
prison.
great time to get divorced.
Right? I think it's great. Get out. Just get out of the way. Yeah.
Crazy time to get. I've never heard of that before.
Divorce,
yeah, during the pregnancy.
I think it's pretty cool. There's no, trauma to me whatsoever.
No, I'm sure that went well.
Yeah.
And then your father went to.
He went to prison for a little bit. He's bipolar, so he stole a car and fought some cops and stuff. So he went to prison for a little bit. But we stayed in Vermont until I was like 3. And then we moved to upstate New York with my aunt and my cousins. It was very fun. And then we just mostly moved around upstate New York. And then I would go stay with my dad and vacations and summers and stuff.
That's nice.
It was lovely.
So you saw your dad like once a year probably as a kid, stuff like
that? No, I'd see him. He'd come visit every other weekend.
Oh, that's nice.
And he used to spend the night, which is cool. And then my mom got a new boyfriend, and he didn't want her ex-husband spending the night, which I guess is reasonable. So he'd have to drive back, but it was like 3 hours away. So now they live an hour apart. It's fantastic.
In the world in which like all like people are more and more open-minded about different kinds of relationship configurations.
Mm-hmm.
I would like struggle to have the guts to admit that I wouldn't want my partner's ex staying over. I'd be like, Sarah, that's toxic. That's patriarchal that you're. And it's like, no, some things are just like boundaries that are normal.
Yeah.
But as a comedian, I don't know if you feel like this. I'm like, man, I didn't realize I had no boundaries in certain ways. I thought I was just like love getting to know people and like interested in connecting with everyone. It's like, why?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Something wrong with you.
I realized that recently where I'm like, I need to just stop telling people everything that pops in my head, especially on podcasts. I forget that like this is being recorded, and I just say, I get so embarrassed after podcasts, and it's not. I've said I do my podcast, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and I've said that like if any of us gets any kind of like success, we need to delete all of it, and not even worrying about if we said something fucked up, just the
fact that it exists and anybody can access it at any point online. Just the deep well of personal information that I've shared in times because I felt like I'm just talking to my buddies is highly embarrassing. I mean, I feel that way about some of my rants. Like I did do 2 like twin like gender criticism episodes, one called Men Are Trash, the other called Women Are Trash. And I just basically complain about people.
Yes.
Alone.
Mm-hmm,
I still stand by those episodes. I play them back and I'm like, I agree with this. But I feel completely raw that they're available to anyone at any point. It feels wrong that anybody could just go listen to this whenever they want. Like I'm taking this down for a bit. I'm just unpublishing it for a bit. Because it's too raw. Performing is confusing. You think you like it and then you feel exposed. Right?
Yes. It's very I've been struggling with that a lot because like when I started comedy, I didn't ever plan on like talking about my childhood and like being white trash or whatever, but then I just started telling a couple of those jokes and people started to
like really
latch onto it. And then so people started to like know me like that and people were interested in that. And then I started doing some stuff with like Comedy Central, and another buddy of mine told me he had a meeting with them, and they're like, I came up and they're like, what we like about him is that he like tells these like fucked up stories from his childhood that no one else would talk about. So then I feel pressure like, oh, this is what I have to do. And then I recorded an album way before I ever thought I would. So like all these like deeply kind of traumatic personal things about my family are put out there, and they've been fairly cool about it. There's some things they've gotten, like, my mom's gotten upset about some things,
Oh, I'm
my
sorry.
uncle. Well, that's the thing, is I had to learn that, like, because some people with comedy are like, you should be able to, say whatever you want, fuck anyone else. But it's also like, these people didn't sign up to have
Yeah,
their
these are real people.
private lives exposed, and all this
I
stuff.
know.
So, but my mom now just loves it. She loves getting attention for anything. So
That's
she
really
just
funny.
she just loves that I'm talking about her. And people, she worked at a grocery store before this, and like, people listen to my comedy and like make fun of her for the jokes they say, and she would just fucking love it. Just
Oh,
anyone talking about her, she doesn't mind. But now I want to move away from that because I don't want to. I'm like,
don't want to feel like defined by your past, right? And like
absolutely.
these, like your struggle, your pain should not be the only thing that people enjoy about you, right? Like I would have like a story about that used to, like, in my first year of, first of all, my first year of comedy, somehow I ended up with only sex and dating jokes. And I was
That
like,
happens, and those are fine.
I mean, they're fine, but it was also like I had other jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't I keep working on them? I was like, oh, because like that's all these guys want to hear me talk. And
It's a lot.
they
Yeah.
loved this one story about me and my dad, like me getting catcalled and my dad liking it.
Oh
That was
boy.
a really kind of a funny. It's a funny story. Walking down the city with my dad, I get catcalled next to him. I think he's complimented on dating me. People assumed I was dating my dad.
Oh wow. Yes. Very
And he was
interesting.
like honored by
Oh
that.
my. Oh my god.
Right. And
Mhm.
I was just mortified by both of them. Just
Yeah.
mortified. But
Certainly.
that he was so delighted to be, I was like, I want to kill us. Anyway, male
Yeah.
audiences, oh, love that joke or that
Mm-hmm.
story. I don't even know how to tell it like a joke anymore, because I was like, every time I tell this and it is received so well, and it's not even a joke, it's just a story, right? I
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
told a reality to you. I didn't really have to write this.
Yes.
Maybe I
Yes.
performed it in a like a way that was charming to you, but this isn't creativity. This is just pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just stopped talking about it. I was like, I'd
Uh-huh.
rather bomb for like a year than ever tell that story again
Yes. It's
to
that's
these
very noble.
motherfuckers. Yeah.
That's very noble, because it's tough. You tell, you just go to mics and you keep what works, and sometimes it's not the stuff you wish worked, but if it
Well, it's
works, you
like they
stick with
might
it.
have a sense of humor about me that's not my sense of humor.
Yeah,
And
certainly.
it's like a matter of like figuring out like, well, what's the sense of humor I'm aiming for? Like, what jokes do I enjoy getting validated for?
I know that's the difficult part. That's what I'm trying to grow with now. With like, I don't want to just like be, just like confessing all these deep pains and traumas. I want to talk about fun, lighthearted things. And
I know.
I've got jokes about sex and whatever. And I feel like I had the opposite issue where I felt like as a man telling these jokes, I felt much grosser about it,
Yeah, like inflicting sexual content on the audience as a man
Yes,
feels like more predatory.
it feels more predatory, and it feels like people don't want to hear it as much, or me. So
Right.
for me, it felt like, I was very uncomfortable with sex and with like myself sexually in a lot of ways. So
Mm-hmm.
me, I was trying to talk more about, and I do want to explore this more about like
Yeah.
being more comfortable talking about it. So when people think I'm just like some man telling some gross sex
Right.
joke, it's me like overcoming like deep seated fears and like trying
Being,
to
yeah.
try to grapple with it, and like talking about insecurity and like just like fear and a lot of different areas. And I think it's important, and it's I want to dive deeper
I
into
would
talking
like
about
to
sexual stuff.
I would like to see that scale be a little more balanced. Because to me, maybe I wouldn't feel so uncomfortable with that being my material if more men were talking about their, vulnerabilities or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah. That's the
because when
only thing. Yeah.
it's about like spreading the shame, let's
Yeah,
spread the shame.
yeah, yeah. No, it's true. I only like talking about vulnerabilities. I only like telling stories where I am like the victim in like horrible things happen to me to the point where it's got some jokes. People are like, that's just sad. Like people are like,
I know.
upset on my behalf. People have even said like, you shouldn't talk about yourself like that. And I'm like, what am I supposed to talk about? I don't know. So sometimes you can push the scale too far where I don't want
I
people to feel
know.
bad for me.
Right. And then it's like, I almost get insulted. I've occasionally gotten feedback like that too. And I've been like, well, what do you mean? I'm laughing at it. So
yeah,
isn't it okay if I find it funny? But it's like, well, maybe you need to continue thinking about processing that and not just laughing at it all the time.
Yeah, that might be a part of it. Maybe I guess laughing at it is a part of processing. Yeah. I think I definitely made jokes about my family when I was younger as like a coping mechanism, and then that bled over into my comedy. But it's just tough to know to talk about. And I don't want to be like a 40-year-old man talking about my childhood. That's just, I don't know. That
funny.
Just seems like I should be over this by now.
When did you? I should be over this. Well, you're in therapy, right?
I'm in therapy. Yes.
Does it help you? Do you sometimes? Here's Galaxy Brain. Sometimes I think like it's too expensive for what I get out of it. Did you know there's a free New York hotline that you can call at any moment and they'll talk to you?
Wow,
I've done it. It's completely Casey, try it.
Okay, I'll try it.
My therapist used to cost $120 a session.
Damn. Yeah.
And when I had
go ahead.
When I had good employment, it was an expense I felt was worth it because I'll be honest with you, I was trying to diagnose like a potential mood disorder. I was like, I need to commit to one woman to observe me for a year so that somebody can make this call who's not me. Because it can't just be me declaring myself crazy or sane on a day-to-day basis. There needs to be some kind of expert. But also like that's a lot of what friends and family are for. You know, and the hotline is amazing. I called it once. I was on there for like an hour talking to her about like my stresses. And she was like, yeah.
That's rad.
It's good. I mean, what I notice is like the free therapy tends to be more about comforting you through your stresses, and the expensive therapy is all about how like which version of bipolar I have. Like,
see, that's interesting.
It's like funny. The more I spend, the more I'm like being pathologized, and then the less I spend, the more they just empathize with the fact that things are tough. You know?
That's good. I think I've had the opposite thing where I don't pay. It's through my wife's insurance. I don't even know, but I know it's expensive still. But I
don't know why I feel the need to do this squat.
To move around, I think it's great. Keep it spicy. But like, it's tough. I want more of him like telling me what's wrong with me, and I want more like diagnoses.
I guess they want you to discover it for yourself or something.
But it's like I don't have any issue discussing my issues. You know, like that's not I can tell anybody this. So it's not like the problem is that I can't open up. It's I need you to tell me what's wrong with me.
Have you tried like mindfulness or like meditation or like, I'll be honest with you, tapping? I know it sounds hippy dippy, but my friend, you know, got me into tapping, which is like insanely, it seems like what a crazy person would do. It's like you rhythmically touch yourself and like describe to yourself like things you accept about yourself.
Oh, all right. That sounds pretty cool.
Because for me, I deal with a lot of like, oh, you shouldn't have said that thing. You shouldn't have made that choice. You shouldn't have harmed that person. You shouldn't have harmed yourself. And it's like a big burden.
Yeah.
And like, there's a whole kind of like releasing thing to like reciting to yourself the things that you love yourself in spite of.
Yes, certainly.
A lot of these like self-care practices do a lot of work to like normalize your mood.
Yeah, that sounds great. I've tried meditation stuff, like the Headspace thing. Sometimes it worked. The first couple times, like I just fucking freak out within the first 5 minutes, and I couldn't do it because it's just all my thoughts were swirling. And they give you exercises. There's exercises like your thoughts are just like cars driving by, so you don't have to like focus. But so I was just all these cars were like, it was like people in cars yelling like "fuck you," like you suck. You should kill yourself. And I have to be like, all right, see you later.
Something else that helps me though, that I recommend trying that I'm doing again is something called The Artist's Way. You know this book?
Yes, I read it in college, I believe.
It's good. The whole
Writing.
like
Yeah.
journaling in the morning
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm. I should do that more. I have such difficulty like getting up and doing things.
Yeah.
It takes me like 2 or 3 hours to really get going.
Yeah.
So it's like the thought of getting up and just doing things immediately is so difficult. And I've
Ah,
wanted to do it my whole life, but I've never succeeded. But I think it
the
would be helpful.
the fun thing about it is if you do it when you're so tired, you have an excuse that it's not quality journaling.
Ah, yes,
That's
yes,
in
that
my
makes
brain.
sense.
I'm like, well, of course I just woke up. This is so stupid. I'm getting away with something because I'm
That's
doing it when I'm
mhm.
barely sentient.
Very smart, very smart.
And then you can just dick around the rest of the morning or whatever. But it like
Yeah.
it's kind of like blowing a load psychically,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty
Sorry.
smooth. That's pretty smooth. The way you said that is very cool.
I'm jealous of, clearly I have some penis envy.
Sure, sure.
Women must, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's quite an experience. You got, yeah.
But you guys are
I
so
don't know though.
vulnerable.
I used to,
Hmm.
I went through puberty pretty late. So I've experienced, you know,
Really? How late did you go through?
masturbating. I was 21. I actually have a pituitary
What?
gland problem. So I have to take hormones because they don't know what's wrong with me, but there's something wrong with me. And so I experienced like, doing it with nothing coming out and then
What?
something coming out, and I much prefer nothing coming out. It was like way easier. it was way easier.
That's too freaking funny. Well,
Yeah.
you know, who says gender differences don't benefit women?
Certainly. I did it. Was there just a man behind you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to know you saw
Sorry.
that.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I don't want to be an alive murder here. I don't know what to do.
No, I'm not being haunted in my house by like an intruder. Thank you for
Who was
checking.
that? I thought you lived
That's
alone.
that's Shalik as a
Oh, okay.
person.
Wonderful.
Who's a person I see. Spend
That's
time
lovely. Fantastic.
with. I should have been thinking a little more about it. I forget that I'm like not alone sometimes because
No,
I
I
spend
get
so
it.
much time solo.
That's great. I'm glad you have someone there.
I do. I spent Christmas alone this
Oh
year,
wow, that's tough. How'd you deal with that?
making too many TikToks. That's how
Oh
I dealt
yeah,
with that.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's how you do Christmas. Was
I
it hard? Were you sad?
It was kind of weird because you know what? I was really grateful to like have the peace of being alone,
Yeah.
but it felt a little dystopic. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I have social relationships. Why am I alone on Christmas?
Yeah,
It
there
felt a
are.
little bit
Yeah.
nuts.
Mm-hmm.
But it
Was
was
this
also because
because
it's
you were trying to,
COVID.
because so you didn't want to see your family because of COVID?
I literally specifically actually just didn't want to spend time with my family because I knew I was so sensitive that if I got into a conflict with them, I wouldn't be able to
Mm.
handle it. I was like, I'm
Ah,
too
yes.
fragile right now psychologically due to having had to move really quickly. What happened, the reason I had to move is I was living with a childhood friend for like 15 years.
Wow.
I know, childhood friend for 15 years, but we lived together for like 4 years or so. It used to be me, her, and another woman. But during COVID, that woman moved out and my friend's boyfriend moved in. And we were all friends, we're all simpatico. I was like, this is actually the ideal situation for this. I'm surprised how easy it is to live with them. But they were like slowly I felt like kind of like edged out. It was like, Sarah,
Mm.
when you shower late at night, it like wakes me up. When you close your door, it wakes me up. Can you just like leave your door open and like, but what ended up happening was they had a Thanksgiving in the house that was like I wasn't invited to.
Oh wow. What the hell? Why?
It was like major, and they're very introverted. I would describe them as introverts. So I understand that they kind of like, the boyfriend tended to only do Thanksgiving with his sister.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the girl used to go to her family, but her parents got divorced. So
Mm. Mm-hmm.
it's like a new Thanksgiving, like for them in like the story of their relationship to each other, their
Oh,
first Thanksgiving
certainly.
together. It was a
Certainly.
very like a familial like moment for them. I kind of understand like if you're that introverted, you only have like one or two friends and you hang out with your boyfriend all the time. you maybe want it to be kind of private, but I lived there.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a
I
tough
lived
situation.
there.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember being like, I talked to a few of my friends about it, and I was like trying to be like, it's cool, like I'll just go like do Thanksgiving with somebody else. And they were like, Sarah, it's weird that you're not like invited at all. Like it's cool that
Yeah.
like it's cool that you're cool with it and that you have other options, but the fact that there's not like an open invite for you to come is weird.
Yeah,
and
very
I
weird.
was like, I came to terms with it, and I was like, I have to get out of this house like yesterday. Like I'm leaving.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I like within a week found an apartment and moved myself into it.
Wow. Did they talk to you about, did they say like, listen, we just want to have like a romantic thing together, or
Kind
was
of.
it
So what
they
happened
not?
was like I planned to not go home for Thanksgiving again because I was just like I need to focus on myself right now. I need to kind of be in my own domain.
Yeah.
Uh a lot of like my best encounters with my family are like not around a holiday. They're like a Saturday afternoon where we decided
Yeah.
to get together. They're not like a loaded thing where you're spending all this time together, you know?
Yeah, sure, sure.
Anyway, I just mentioned, I was like, oh, I saw him bringing in a turkey. I was like, oh my God, Thanksgiving. I don't have plans. Can I join you guys? Just thinking like, oh, I should formalize that I'll be here and let me just, can I join? I don't know why I even
Yeah.
asked that, but I mean, it made sense to ask it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
And
totally
but then
fair.
he was like, yeah. And I later that day I was like, hey, I hope I'm not intruding. Am I intruding? I don't want to intrude on your Thanksgiving. I feel like, you didn't seem there seemed to be some hesitance about me joining. And he was like, well, to be honest, what I like about Thanksgiving is that it's just me and my sister, and this is the first year Jamie's coming. So I was like,
Wow. Wow.
I was
That's
like,
insane.
okay. But then, what went really bad about it though, dude, was that my friend of 15 years, as I was moving out, was like basically unhappy that I was unhappy. Like she wanted me to be like, "Oh, I'll miss you. It was a good run. Now things are changing." Like she wanted me to be more like forgiving and happy, but I was just kind of matter of fact, like it seems like you guys want to live alone.
Yeah.
Maybe you
Yeah.
don't know this consciously, but subconsciously you guys really want to live alone, and I think it's time for me to head out. And I paid them 2 months of rent
Wow.
and moved out. And then what happened? She called me like mentally ill and started like attacking like me as a crazy person.
Holy shit. That's a lot.
I think that was a really the nail in the coffin, because I think I could have just done some distance with that friend for like a few months and then probably had a good relationship with her still. She means a lot to me.
Yeah.
But the wielding that I'm mentally ill,
Yes, yes. That's very
that's
difficult.
too far. And I was already dealing with feeling fragile anyway. So then I asked people in my life, I was like, do you think I'm crazy? I called up my dad. I was like, here's what's happening. Am I crazy?
Uh-huh.
It's like, it sounds like a very reasonable thing what you're doing and what you're going through. I was like, thank you. Someone,
Yeah, no, it sounds completely reasonable. Absolutely. And you gotta cut people out of your life sometimes. Even if
sometimes.
I've got friends from my childhood that like I've got trouble. I've got friends that I've known since I was a child, but even back then, like,
Yeah.
you know, I kind of just relate them to traumatic experiences. Some
Yeah.
like one specifically who was really like a bully to me, like really treated me very poorly, and I just associate him with a lot of negative experiences. And he tries so hard to maintain our relationship to this day because I think he's like treated a lot of people like this, so he's like cut a lot of people out of his life, and he's now coming to terms with it. And I'm trying to be like the better person and like accept it and stuff, but I don't want to. And I like
Like there's
I
too much
wanted,
damage has been done.
yeah, I kind of just want to say like I just don't want to be associated anymore, but it feels strong, but it's
Well, you
tough.
don't have to like he can start over with his good personality traits with new people. He does,
Yeah, yeah,
because he's like reminding you of like the past pains when he needs that from you,
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's just a little heavy. It's like the trust is broken basically. And
yeah.
you have to decide, like, because with family, this is how I am. It's like you can't pick your family, so you have to like negotiate the boundaries with them in order to have the healthiest, most loving relationship possible. But with
Yeah.
friends or like other choice optional social nodes, if they're like cruel, you don't like renegotiate with a cruel person. You
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
you move forward, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh. But
It's
it's hard
hard.
because I'm an only child. I think I treat my
Ah.
friends like really serious,
Yeah. 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 I hear you.
you know? Do you have siblings?
I've got siblings, but I still treat my friends very, very closely. I wasn't
Yeah.
close to them when I was younger. So like my sister's 6 years older and my brother was 4 years older. So they were kind of like doing their own thing and I was too little. So I was just like cut out of a lot of stuff. And even when I wasn't, like I remember they went to Woodstock 99, like the one where everybody burned everything down. And they like
Cool.
invited me to go. And even that I was like, you guys aren't gonna take care of me. I was just like, I'm a
Oh,
child. I'm a child and I don't trust you to. Uh
that's really funny.
so I didn't go because I was just terrified of everything. But now that we're older, I don't. My brother and I's relationship's okay, but my sister is like my one of my closest relationships, and we talk at least once a week on the phone all the
Yeah.
time. But we used to fight terribly when we were younger, and once we got older, we became like good friends. So
I
yeah,
know. As the only child, I'm like always confused. I'm like, what do you mean? You guys have the same DNA. Shouldn't you just be best friends? Like, I don't fully
yeah,
understand how siblings
it's
don't get along. I'm like, what?
it's tough. My brother has his whole own set of issues. He is actually bipolar,
Hmm.
but like doesn't take medicine for it. So he'll just like, it's just up and down with him a lot of times. At my wedding, I had to like fight him because he can't drink at all, or else he just goes insane. And he started drinking and like
Interesting.
just causing huge ruckus. And we had like my wife's like grandparents and nieces in the house, and it was like a whole thing. I had to drive to my mom's house in the middle of the night, and
Mm,
so just like things like that where it's kind of difficult to get close to him sometimes.
yeah. Wow. Fascinating.
Yeah,
Wow.
but yeah, your friends. I've had a lot of friends. I've made so many friends in comedy, and I've lost so many friends in comedy because you learn that people are shady in many different ways,
It
and you've
takes a
had
few
to,
years. You have to go through like the opportunity for them to like they have to have
yeah,
the opportunity to do something for their gain at your expense,
absolutely.
or for you to even notice that they have that trait. Because comedians are almost like, in general, the act of being a comedian feels like being like a flirt to a lot of people. It's like
Mm-hmm.
flirting with a mass of people.
Certainly.
And so we all do that like interperson with each other. It's like our version of like we enjoy kind of being charming or
Yeah.
enjoy making people laugh or enjoy pleasing people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
that's like some people do this in order to like, I don't know. I came to the conclusion, I was like, I just love comedy so much. Like, even
Mm-hmm.
if there wasn't a profession or any career, I would just
Yeah.
be wanting to do it. And I don't know what'll happen. Maybe
Yeah.
nothing, but it's really corny. I reached the like, you get to do it thing. And like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you get to spend time with all these people who are really stimulating to you and like exciting. For example, NFL fan therapy.
Oh, very fun.
I
I
never knew
know.
I liked doing improvised acting at all.
It's so
I
much
never knew.
fun. Yeah, I love it. So I wish I got more opportunities to do that. I'm lucky. I'm so happy. That's just I only got included because Courtney was on it and she's so great. And then I just happened to be around.
How
So
did
like they
Joff
just
know to cast Courtney?
I think he how did he? He must
Joff
have
is like so good at sensing what people are good at.
I know.
He's like a guru.
He must have known her for something, or like he knew the other people, and I think they're asking for
They knew
football
her.
fans, and she is a psychotic football fan. But she's so good at it, so they kind of just included me as like I feel like out of pity at first, and then they grew to like me.
That's what you said, but I don't believe that. I
Well, at
remember you.
first, because they had their most popular characters are the Patriots fans, so they didn't like need another Patriots fan guy. But I think I've
Right.
carved out my own little niche, and especially our session. That's where I really felt like I was coming to my own when we were doing it with you because
Yeah.
it was so fun.
Because you got to lean into being like the bad one. the antagonist in this. It's awesome. An antagonist in a group therapy setting is just so fucking funny.
It's so fun.
Bullying Tom Delgado.
I love to bully him.
Take your shirt off.
Oh my God. I said it to him all the time. He was here last night and I just bully the shit out of him. It's so much fun.
That's too freaking funny.
It's
my
great.
God. I'm making more coffee.
Get more coffee. I haven't eaten at all today.
Oh no.
I don't eat very much. I've realized sometimes you ever just realize you didn't eat. Sometimes it'll be like 5 o'clock. I'm like, I didn't eat anything today.
Me
it's very
too.
confusing. I'm like, why is my body not telling me that it wants food? I don't get it.
What I've started doing with myself? It's like you have to treat yourself like you are like a dumb animal. I'm also trying to eat healthier. So I was like, the easiest way to do that is to spread fruits around your apartment in sight.
Yes.
So when you're walking and you see it, it's the easiest thing for you to do.
Very smart. Very smart.
It's also just so, don't underestimate how animal-like you are. I feel like people forget, like, we're basically animals. We are. We're more animals than we are like smart, evolved. That's why people do all these bad things to each other.
Yes, we do very bad things. And we are animals. And with eating, I just read, I don't know why it took me this long to realize it's so simple. I was just reading Keith Richards' autobiography.
Yeah.
And he was talking about he doesn't eat at normal times, basically from like performing and just like doing drugs all the time. He eats at weird times and he like makes his own food, but he's talking about he doesn't eat meals. He'll have he doesn't think it's good. He said like people are trained to eat like that because they're training them to like work in factories.
Right. No, I think he's right. The 9 to 5 thing, the breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you should be grazing all the time.
That's the thing. So like in school, they're just training you to be like in the workforce, whereas it's better to just like take a few bites here and there. And I'm like, oh yeah, I hate eating a huge meal. I feel like shit. I'm exhausted. Like my stomach doesn't digest things well. I'm like, I think I'm gonna move to just like grazing throughout the day, maybe having like just dinner with my wife, but I hate breakfast. I've realized I hate breakfast and I'm okay with it now. I'm just moving on. Eggs suck. I've been really like lying to myself that I like eggs so long.
Eggs suck. What's your favorite? I know it does feel like crazy that eggs are so popular.
I don't know what it is. They're just there. I don't know. They're good sometimes, but I don't know.
Foods are like, for example, eggs are better. My family's German, so I often go to Germany to see them.
Very nice.
Dairy is better there. Like when I eat an egg in Germany, I'm like, what is this? Like, it's just, some places are better at doing natural foods. And guess what? They're not America. Yeah, like I feel like there's this psyop where like all vegetables, fruits, and all this shit tastes bad as a default. Like you're lucky if a fruit tastes good.
Yeah, no, a lot of apples taste like shit. A lot of apples taste like shit. I love fruits and vegetables, but yeah.
But Cheetos like always hit. Like we all know what that's gonna be like.
Oh yeah, I love that so much. I love dairy. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty lactose intolerant, but I can't, So I try to spread it out and I just deal with it. But
that's cool.
Yeah, it's tough. Like ice cream's my favorite food. I try to really, and pickles are my second favorite food. I eat those all the time. I love pickles.
You like the acidity of pickles.
Oh my God. I drink the juice all the time. There's some people say it's very bad for me. Some people say it's very good for me. I don't really know. I'm trying to figure it out.
It strikes me as good.
It's a lot of sodium, but I think it's hydrating. I don't know the science behind it. I should probably look up if it's good for you or not.
It reminds me of like lemonade, like the same theory behind lemonade. It's like acidic and hydrating. What's the issue? It's just a different flavor profile. I support pickle juice.
Thank you. I'm glad. My wife does not. If I reek of pickle juice, she does not. She's not very
clearly doesn't want to get close to you. Yeah.
Not a very pleasant experience.
That's too freaking funny. Wait, can you tell me about when you decided to do comedy and where you began and how you came to New York and all that?
I was in college and I was doing acting stuff and I was like, I knew I wanted to do something performing. And I was like, this is almost it, but it's not it. Like I had a lot of friends in theater, but a lot of them were just like kind of dorks. And I was like, I don't fully fit in with these people. And I love acting. I'm not like that good at it though, and I was like realizing it slowly. Like I'm pretty good, but I'm not like there are other people that are way better than me. And then I got the opportunity to. There was like a big dance show every semester.
Dance show?
Yeah, so like they would have these dance troops, and it was like the biggest show on campus. Everyone would come.
What college
And
you go to?
this is SUNY Oneonta.
Oh yeah,
So
I'm
it's like
familiar.
Western New York, and they just were looking for hosts, and
Ha.
me and my friend Brendan, who's my best friend in college, uh, auditioned. We just like made up a few little skits, and I think we're the only people that auditioned, so we got it. So we had to make our own skits throughout, like between the dances, and I think we did way more than they thought we were gonna do, but we like had a whole thing. We planned our whole own dance and there's video of I'll show. He's 5 feet tall and I'm like 6'4", so we had like a lot of.
Oh, that's so fun.
We made a lot of
An
things.
odd pair.
Yes, we did it. We invented the snail where I get down and
Stop.
he makes himself a little shell on my back, and we do
No.
and I drag myself around. And then there's one part of the dance where I just pretend he was a baby and I was giving birth to him, and that's when people really lost their minds. In the video,
They
I don't think
liked it.
I've never gotten a bigger reaction. People were fucking screaming. They loved it. So
You should put that please on social media.
I'll put that up. It's on YouTube. I'll put it up.
Or send me the link. I need to see it because and to me, this is something that stand-up is lacking, is like so much of what is funny is like real absurdity and physicality.
Oh yeah, that's what I like the best. I don't like, I mumble a lot, and people can't understand what I'm saying most of the time. So a lot of my comedy is just in my movements and my general likability. People are like, I don't know. They're like,
It's
I can't hear what he's saying,
personality-based.
but he's like fun. I can tell he's funny.
That's so funny.
So I did that, and then we got to do that. It was like a big success, and it was very fun. I had a lot of the dads who like had to go to these dance recitals their whole lives, be like, I fucking hate this shit, but you guys were great, So we got to do that for a while, and then we got other opportunities to host like a fashion show, and then like do like other improv sketch stuff, and then after that, I just planned. I was like, I'm gonna move to New York and do whatever. I went to
And
work
how
on a
many
weed.
years ago was this?
It's 10 next. What is it? In
Wow.
like a week, it's gonna be 10 years.
Wow.
So yeah. So I I went to work on a weed farm in California to raise money to move here. So I did that for a few months, and then I did that for like 3 times. So like even when I was living in New York, I'd go work the season just to get an extra chunk of money, and then I just fucking moved here. And I didn't even know I wanted to do stand up. I did stand up one time in college. There was a hot dog restaurant that said like comics wanted, and I was like, oh, I always wanted to try it. So I just wrote down everything I ever thought could be a joke. So I did like 20 minutes, and I thought I had the video somewhere, and I'm like, this is going great. And like it wasn't going great, but it was going way better than somebody doing 20 minutes for the first time should have been.
Right.
So then I moved here, and I planned on doing like acting and comedy and like improv and stuff. But then my first week I went to an open mic, and I was like, this is it. I don't want to, I don't want to go to on auditions. And I was like, improv's too expensive. So yeah, I've just been doing it ever since.
That's really, really cool. Damn.
Yeah.
I did do the UCB stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the improv classes in terms of like because I kind of enjoy thinking about like the abstract patterns of comedy. Like I was just a comedy fan first.
Yeah.
Before I really knew that I wanted to do it. I knew I loved making my friends laugh.
Yeah.
And I also knew that like at my day job, I would listen to Maria Bamford and like transcribe every joke and explain to myself why it worked. I was just like super analytical about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is it about this that is so funny? Is it the writing? Is it the voice? Is it the rhythm? Is it the, And I would just like explain to myself why I was finding things funny. Because laughter, like humor, when something strikes you as funny and you're not used to thinking about it analytically, it honestly feels like kind of a weird miracle. I'm like,
yeah, absolutely.
why am I experiencing this?
Yeah, it's like a
Anyway,
weird power, and you don't even know what's funny. I'll write throwaway lines in a joke that's just like,
people like it a lot.
and I don't even think it's funny at the time.
Right.
Yeah. No, I wish I
I
did the improv stuff. I honestly saw myself doing that more because I was like obsessed with like Saturday Night Live. I was obsessed with like Will Ferrell, as was every man of my generation. But
I like Will
like,
Ferrell a lot.
I watched it. I had his best of SNL DVDs, and I would like watch them every day. And I knew I don't like I can't ever remember movie lines or anything like that. But I had like every one of the sketches like memorized. And but then I just started doing stand up, and I was like, it's free, and I can do it whenever I want. And I didn't have any money to pay for improv classes. I didn't really like the structure of it, and I realized
Yeah.
like I don't feel like working with other people that much. So
I think it
yeah,
what
stand up
was
was it.
hard for me about improv was like I guess I'm like very individualistic, so stand up was really easy to just go and just like see if an idea worked. I liked that
Yeah,
instant feedback and the instant
yeah,
ability I had to just execute it, not having to rely on other people.
yeah,
But I do think it's like good improv does feel just like a polyamorous relationship. Like these
yeah,
people are just like incredibly close to each other mentally and
yeah,
basically are able to perform as a unit. If I'm not feeling that like emotionally connected to my scene partners, I'm just going to be in my head. I'm always like, I'm going to make them look bad or they're going to make me look bad. Because in my
yeah,
head, I have these, I feel like this is the thing. We are all assessing who we think is funny, right?
yeah,
In a
yeah, yeah.
class like that. In my head, I'm
Hmm.
like, man, I hope I get in a scene with them because they're hilarious. I'll be very comfortable. But if I was in a
Yeah,
scene with someone I perceived as very unfunny, I basically couldn't make it work.
yeah, yeah. That's
And
the thing is
that's
I wouldn't be able to
and I
do that
hated having
either.
to even judge other people like that. I was like, I
Yeah,
wouldn't even choose to have these negative thoughts about anyone because I just wouldn't be hanging out with them. If
absolutely.
I didn't
And
enjoy their company,
yeah,
it just felt really unnatural being put in a class.
I think it is unnatural, and a lot of people are just taking it as like to try something out, and yeah, it just costs so much. And I've learned I just like comedians more, like improv people, especially the older I get. People that are just like always doing bits fucking drives me insane, and I'm like, shut the fuck up, just talk to me like a normal person. And I
I
find
know.
that happens more in improv, in stand up a lot, but like I even have friends who used to be like that. As they're growing older, they're like calming down. I'm like, this is not like
Thank you.
you don't need to audition that you're funny for me every time we talk. It's very irritating. So
I know.
comedians are just like a little bit angry and a little bit more cynical, and
Right. They're more
I don't like
negative.
I don't like to see myself that way, but there's definitely like a part of me. So in stand up, I'm like one of I'm seen as like a very positive guy. If I was in improv, I think I'd be a prick. so
Right.
so it's better.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That like self-reflection on that stuff. Oh me, oh my. But then I also took a sketch class and I would like write sketches like according to what I think is funny. And
Yeah.
then like the sketch teacher would explain to me all the things I needed to change. And I would just be like, but no.
Yeah, but
Then
no.
my sketch would be like all their sketches. And then it's not as interesting because we've seen that before. This
Exactly.
sketch is better. I
Yeah.
just like refuse to like accept the education that I'm paying for. I was like,
Yeah.
and then that improviser started doing stand up and I hated her stand up. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, clearly I have my own sense of humor. What I've discovered through spending all this money on UCB is that I have my own sense of humor and I don't really want anyone else's.
Absolutely. I feel the same way. I like doing it by myself. I like mixing with some people. Like Courtney and I host things together and we bounce
So
off each
cute.
other very well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, but even in stand up, I enjoy like the improv moments more. Like reciting a
Same.
joke, I've said a million times, doesn't
No, I do
bring me
like
that much
hosting.
pleasure.
Hosting makes me really happy.
Hosting's very fun. Yeah, like the first time you say something funny is way better than knowing like it's supposed to get this reaction.
It feels kind of like psychopath. Like I know what I'm gonna say, and I know how it's gonna make
Yeah,
them feel, and I've done this a bunch of times. Like what the
it's like people who are like
fuck?
so like some comics are just like by the book, like write every joke meticulously and
Yeah,
like have to say it exactly. I just don't understand
it's really
that space at
nice
all.
for me to meet another person who thinks like this, because I had a eureka moment. I was like, I do stand up best when I'm just in the right mood, and I didn't forget the themes
absolutely.
I intended to get to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's interesting. Anyway, I feel
Yeah.
like we should wrap up soon. I've kept
All right.
you on here for a
No, it's been
while.
lovely. I just
It
have to
has
clear the room out.
been
My wife has
fun.
therapy as well,
Oh wow,
so I
everybody's
have to
getting
get.
their
It's her
their
big
brains
day.
fixed. You know,
It's her big day.
lobotomy is a thing that I feel like we should start considering more.
I'd think
Getting the
about it.
brain cut out.
I would love it. I don't need it. It doesn't do me a lot of favors, honestly.
Okay. Well,
Well,
thank you.
thank you for having me.
It's been real.
And I'm
See you
glad you're
around.
enjoying yourself, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, bye.
Okay.